Jesus, the man, was born, so to speak, as a soul, as a spirit, as the humane being he was, because of his time in the face of what to him obviously would be a great correction. That the hell being visited by the Roman Empire and the scribes and Pharisees on the masses could not be sustained any longer. There would be a great correction. The question that he faced personally and resolved personally was, how do I live in the face of that? How do I find life, and hopefully joyful life, in the face of that hellacious material correction? And that is exactly where we are today, living in the face of a now unfolding great correction that quite possibly will take with it almost all life on earth. But it's unlikely that it will take all immediately. So the question is, how to have an optimally gratified life in the face of the hellacious great correction now unfolding. And more importantly, how to lead others to the same. And Jesus is the template. He's the master. He did it. He educated us, provided the opportunity for education as to how to do it, how to be it. And a point of all this is that as this great correction unfolds, it will be material hell for pretty much everyone. But those that join in the task of trying to cause a movement downstream toward heaven on earth for at least some, are going to find the material hell transcended by the meaning of trying to do that. It's possible it was Jesus' solution for himself that he tried to offer us. Some of us have brief instances in our own lives where finding such meaning, such meaningful life, caused a transcendence of material suffering. That we know that it is a dynamic available within many of us. The question remains whether you or I will play an active role in trying to help people find that. There is going to be a horrible correction. But on the other side, it will be more horrible or better. It does not remain to be seen whether there will be a horrible correction on earth. There has to be. 7 or 8 years ago, James' doctor discovered that he had stage 4 cancer. There had to be a correction, a resolution. Things could not go on the way they were. Death was one resolution, which James welcomed at the time. But the other resolution was to see if the doctors could stop the cancer, and so far they have. But there had to be a resolution, and the correction, cancer treatment, is not fun. The 6-hour operation, the aftermath was just excruciatingly painful. The 4.5 months of chemo was living hell. There had to be a correction. About 4 or 5 years ago, James did his usual 3-hour climb up to the base of Mount Whitney, well, up to the campground, at the base of the last huge road switchback. It was excruciatingly cold. It was probably a very good ride. James' feet had gone frost nip, I think it's called. And the pain was so severe, maybe coupled with altitude and dehydration. He knew he had to vomit. That's not a normal or regular thing. Matter of fact, I think it was vomit. Boy, vomiting is just not something James ever liked to do. But he knew a correction was coming. There had to be a correction. And as I recall, he didn't try to prolong it. He welcomed it. The correction being thought of here is the correction that has to happen in the cultures of humankind, which are basically various forms of the Western capitalist, materialist culture. It can't, not as in it won't, it can't go on. It is not possible for it to go on. It is producing far too much agony, far too little good, far too much destruction, far too little construction of a human supportive sort. It can't go on. But the choice James is considering is how to live meaningfully and therefore joyfully in the face of this great correction. And Jesus contemplated the same. He saw that things were not going to go on for the Jews the way they had been. There was the hell being visited by the scribes and the Pharisees on the one hand and the Romans on the other hand. It was so evil. There was going to be a correction. What he decided was the meaningful life was to try and live in a way that the correction was in a good direction. The kingdom of God, he called it. And if enough people learned and practiced his way, the outcome could be heaven on earth. Well, that didn't happen. It never started. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, disciples, that if the writings of the gospel are true, never got it. Oh, but Pentecost. Oh, but bullshit. Jesus once mentioned something about sending a comforter, but he never said, okay, the fact that you guys haven't done anything that I've said, that you haven't understood anything that I've said, oh, the comforter is going to be a magic button that fixes all that. He never said that. Quite the opposite. No, so it's never been tried. It has been true for James for the last, well, ever since Standing Rock, 5 years ago or so. that, okay, the world is not going to be saved. It's not going to turn from destruction, destroying itself. Maybe a soul can be helped now or in the future. So in a way, what James is seeing is not new, but it is an intensification and a clarification. He's guessing that his life is going to go from material hell to material hell on steroids with King Trump and his gargoyle hordes. No offense to gargoyles. His Social Security, which is a pittance of what he paid in, will be gone. He may well become the target of today's scribes and Pharisees. In a way, that would be a good thing, it would be a measure that, or a confirmation that what James is trying to proliferate, jesianity, Jesus' teachings and example, the mortal threat to the scribes and Pharisees that James believes it is. He doesn't need the confirmation, but it would be nice. But as James ponders this great correction, he's glad to have this awareness of meaning. James, what you have been led to do these last 5 years since Standing Rock, to try and be a force that helps maybe one soul downstream, might be more significant than that. There's certainly more at stake. He saw the great destruction, James did, but he didn't see the great correction, the outcome of which will be intensified hell, or maybe heaven, kingdom of God, kingdom of heaven, for at least a few.